Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. It seems the unified champion Anthony Joshua has not taken kindly to Deontay Wilder saying that he will knock Joshua out in a devastating fashion, and that Joshua is already making excuses to potentially not fight him next should Wilder beat Tyson Fury July 24th. So Joshua heading back, talking to Sky Sports, and the comments see here on screen summarized by TalkSport. So Joshua saying, "I don't know what excuses he thinks I'm making. I'm a throwback fighter. Check the resume. I've been in with all of them. I'll fight them all. Wilder is just one in the pecking order, no problem. I don't know what excuses he's talking about. Talk is cheap. It's the cheapest thing to buy on earth. I'm an elite level fighter. I'm not one of those tomato cans he's knocked out. He better watch what he's saying and have a reality check, because when the day comes for me and him, I know what I'm capable of doing." Then it goes on to say, when he was asked if he believes Wilder could lose his status as elite level if he's beaten by Tyson Fury again, Joshua replied, "He ain't an elite level fighter. He ain't. He ain't an elite level fighter in my opinion. He's good. It's heavyweight, so they always know one punch can change the course of a fight. But I've never ever seen in the heavyweight division a fighter going to a war with one weapon in his arsenal, which is his right hand. When you get to the top level, trust me, that don't last anymore. That doesn't work. As we've seen now, he struggles at the top level, and there's a lot more of us waiting for that opportunity to kick his ass. So he's going to struggle when he comes to fight people like myself and other heavyweights." And those are the comments regarding Deontay Wilder made by unified champion Anthony Joshua. So certainly those are fighting words, as they say. Joshua not very happy with Deontay Wilder and some of the comments that he's made, and responding in kind. And I guess the comment about, is Deontay Wilder an elite level fighter? There are people who clearly don't like Wilder or his resume or what he's been doing in recent years since he won the WBC title in 2015 and then surrendered it to Tyson Fury in 2020. So in that time, after beating Berman Stavern, and we'll actually get to it, so see here on screen, so he had 10 title defenses. So you do have the likes of Eric Molina down here at the bottom, Johan Dorper, Artur Spilka, Chris Arreola, Gerald Washington, Berman Stavern again, then Luis Ortiz, which at the time people said was definitely the best opponent on his resume and a step-up opponent. And the guys before that, you know, it's hardly murderer's row. You know, decent heavyweights, but not necessarily the fighters that people wanted to see Wilder in with. Tyson Fury was his big test, big step-up fight in 2018 after the Luis Ortiz win, and it was a draw. So him knocking down Fury a couple of times in that fight, Fury generally outboxing Wilder for the majority of the fight, ultimately ruled a draw. A split draw. Dominic Breazeale somehow became the mandatory and was taken out by Wilder. Luis Ortiz was given a rematch no one was calling for, given the outcome of the first fight was pretty conclusive. And then we have Tyson Fury, the rematch in 2020, Deontay Wilder losing that, getting battered, beaten up, taken out in 7 rounds. So there is something to be said that it's not necessarily the strongest heavyweight defense and run in history, but there's not bad names on there. Some of them are just, as I've described in the past, middling meat. But clearly Luis Ortiz a cut above the rest of the opponents, and then you have Tyson Fury a cut above Luis Ortiz. And mixed results on that front, the draw and then the loss in February 2020. And I guess the question is Wilder elite? Well, he's got the opportunity to prove it against Tyson Fury, because if he can come back and beat Tyson Fury after that humiliating loss in 2020, where he came out with a myriad of excuses after the fact and clearly struggled with the loss, if he can overcome that and beat Tyson Fury, well, he will cement himself as an elite fighter. If he's taken out and beaten up again and in decisive fashion, I guess the question will become, where is Deontay Wilder? Where does he go from there? And some people will say, no, he has not proven he's elite. He's just been beaten up again. So, I guess the thing, a lot of people like to sort of hate on Deontay Wilder for the sake of hating on the guy. The resume is not the strongest in terms of the championship run, and he has had a pretty carefully guided career. He has been matched with guys where he's been made to look good for the most part. But then from 2018 onwards, certainly the opposition, the level of it was upped. So, 35 years old, he believes he's still got a lot to prove in the sport. He says he's going to come back, become a two-time champion, and prove to the world that he is the best fighter, one face, one name, all that stuff that Deontay Wilder likes to spout. So I think the jury is still out to some degree on where he's really at. But make no mistake, he is a dangerous fighter. He is a very good heavyweight. And even Anthony Joshua is still saying he's a very good heavyweight. But he's making a distinction saying he's not elite. And I guess on the balance of the last performance, he didn't look elite, but that's not to say that he can't still deliver an elite performance. So I think the jury is out to some degree, but it must also be noted. So Joshua, in terms of his resume, he's got a couple of the same names. So, Eric Molina and Dominic Breazeale, that was earlier in his title reign, that sort of thing. So they have some common opponents. But in terms of some of the meat on Joshua's resume, I think some of it is stronger than some of the title defenses that were on Wilder's, although Wilder has a more of a breadth of opponents over a longer period. But, these guys are still writing their resumes. They're still fighting. We can't completely objectively look at their careers because they haven't finished yet. So we don't know what they're going to go on and do. So if Deontay Wilder does beat Tyson Fury July 24th, that will certainly be a big boost for his legacy, his resume, and I think it would be hard to argue that he wasn't an elite fighter if he gets that win. Although I'm not picking him to win this third fight with Fury based on what we saw in the rematch, but it's heavyweight boxing. But I know some people will be either up on either side of the coin. They'll be supporting Joshua to the hilt on these comments, or they'll be deeply upset that Joshua has deigned to sort of make these comments against Wilder. But it is what it is. Joshua says talk is cheap, and it certainly is. Saying these things that he's going to fight him and beat him, well, let's see the fight. This is one of these things that, we've been talking about this fight for years and years and years, and I still think that we may never see Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, especially if Deontay Wilder loses. But in terms of Wilder making accusations that Joshua is already making excuses not to fight him, what's that based on? There really is nothing to sort of, concrete say that Joshua is making excuses at this point. You can point to mandatories, but that has always been an issue for Joshua. But as we've seen with the sanctioning bodies, if it's a big fight, it makes sense and it makes dollars for the sanctioning bodies too. They will try to get behind it and allow for big fights to be made. But often the politics of boxing and the different promotional aspects and elements, broadcasting rights, does get in the way. But Joshua coming out strong here with comments against Deontay Wilder, I should say, responding to Wilder's comments about knocking him out in a devastating fashion, not liking what Wilder was saying. And I'm sure Wilder will probably at some point during this build-up ahead of the Fury fight, will again take some more pot shots and jabs at Joshua. You can expect it. Drop a comment loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.